welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message at the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try and force in some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
Hey guys, welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, joined by one other person this week. Vrail is here.
Two-man show. Let's make it happen.
Let's make it fucking happen, dude. We got this. No problem. Moon said he's going to be 50-50, and we're going through like a transition period right now. As of this week, Dom is no longer going to be joining the show. Unfortunately, life has hit him really, really hard, and work is picking up, and he just got married, so he wants to spend more time with his wife as her schedule has changed. So all good things. We understand life happens. And because of that, this week is going to be a transition period as we are currently interviewing a couple people for his slot on the show. And if we need additional podcasting help, we will make a call out for that in the future. We're hoping to find another support main to take his spot. And we're also going to be transitioning because every other Wednesday I'm not here. So that if you notice, Dom has been hosting. And with Dom being gone, Moon and Beaver are going to step up. But unfortunately, both of them are busy this week. And that we should be back in normal rotation starting next week. Which is probably good. It's probably a good and terrible time for this to happen because mid-season's coming up here soon. We're in closing.
Little break in the season.
Yeah, so we have kind of a break right now. Things are kind of in a holding pattern, but so instead of a normal second podcast this week, I'm going to actually ship out one of the meta reports, one of the older meta reports.
Good stuff. Those are some solid works that Beaver and I try and put together. So hopefully you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, you guys. I think everyone will enjoy that. And that's probably what's going to happen if we ever have any downtime. I'm going to put out old meta reports because, again, they're usually good for 1 or 2 months worth. But if you want the latest meta report and you want to be ahead of the game for $5 a month, patreon.com/TForce Network, you can go ahead and grab that. Vrail and Beaver host that one. They go over everything that we've previously discussed in the show and tell you what's good, what's bad, how to play the game a little better in the current state of the meta. Plus, they bring on guests to talk about topics that are outside of what the podcast talks about or goes in a little more depth because they have a little more time to do it. And it's a really good, really solid show. And for $5, you get access to that. And if you don't pay the $5, you never know when you're going to get one, right? Because who the hell knows when we're going to have time off to be able to ship them out there. So
Exactly.
So yeah, patreon.com/TForce Network. Go ahead and support us. Tonight, since it's a two-man show, we're going to try to go through some of these. We're going to go to your listener questions a little later on in the episode. But to start it out, I had my discussion topic for this evening, and I only have one, is about itemization. And I'm hoping that Vrail and I can talk about itemization for a little bit because I know we get a lot of questions about how do I itemize. Hell, I had someone write in me the other day and say, what are the best items per class right now or per role? And I emailed him back and said, that's too large of a topic to cover. Then I got to thinking, and I said, well, maybe instead of going over what is best, maybe we can go over what you shouldn't be purchasing early or maybe how you should be thinking about purchasing. And I wrote down some general tips if you're watching the YouTube video. But I kind of wanted to start with mid lane and start with Rod of Ages. I think that's the most simple one to start with a discussion of. I see a lot of people out there, a lot of mid laners who decide they want to go for Rod of Ages, but they end up purchasing it either too late or they don't purchase the items in the right order, or they don't understand why they're purchasing Rod of Ages. Hell, they might not even buy it at all. And that's kind of like where I want to start with that item and why we're purchasing it and whatnot. Vrail, I'm going to put you on the spot here, but can you give me a little insight about how you would look at Rod of Ages as a mid laner?
So I don't normally get Rod of Ages unless I'm more of a bruiser mid laner like Swain or maybe Lissandra, someone like that. I don't think it's really that good on mages because the early purchase doesn't really give you the stats that you want as mages. The HP is always nice, but it doesn't really give you the damage that you want to clear waves or when you're actually using your abilities in combat. So if I'm like building Rod of Ages, the ideal time to build Rod is either as the first item you purchase, just completely off the bat. You're gonna get Catalyst first, and it's gonna give you a ton of sustain. And then hopefully after you get Catalyst, you can back and get it like your first or your second or third back. Because Rod is so good. The earlier you finish it, it's so much better the earlier you finish it because it has the stacking mechanic where the longer it takes, the longer you have it, up to 10 minutes, it gives you more HP and it gives you more AP, and it scales with you into the game. So you're either going to get it first, or what some mages do who are really mana hungry or have mana scaling, like Rise or Anivia or Cassio. Though, what you do is you get your tier, your first back, and then you go straight into Rod, because Rod is almost always going to be, if you're building it, it's always going to be the first item that you get completed.
And it really has to be because of that stacking portion of it. You are sacrificing such a large power spike by going Rod, because I mean it's efficient when you first buy it, just hardly efficient when you first buy it. But it gets more efficient as time goes on, and it takes about 10 minutes for that thing to fully stack. But once it stacks, it's actually one of the most powerful AP items that you're able to purchase, but it just takes a little longer for it to get there.
Yeah, I think it scales up to 100 AP, and I don't know how much HP, but you get a good healthy chunk of HP. So once it's completely stacked, it is incredibly valuable, and it's a really strong item because you're gonna have a ton of AP, you're gonna be beefy, and you're gonna have a lot of mana. So when you have it completely stacked, which is 10 minutes after you buy it, it's really a strong, very strong item. But the problem is that other people who want to build it, like if you're building it on like Oriana, then you don't have the CDR, which is such an important part of Oriana's kit, is being able to move her ball around whenever she wants. And if you go Rod first, then you're maybe not getting your full CDR complement until a lot later in the game, which is really hurts her damage output, even though you are a little beefier and harder to take down.
Right. And Annie's another one I'm thinking of where that Rod of Ages pops up a lot in her builds because people feel like she should be up in there, but really like Proto Belt could be a better first rush item for her than Rod if you're going for something a little beefier.
Well, if you're playing Annie, I don't think you should ever get a mana item. I feel like, unless it's super situational, because you shouldn't need it if you're using your Q to farm because it refunds the mana. If you just want to get...
Sorry, you're getting... the fucking Sheen version, the AP Sheen version. I can't think of the name of it right now.
Lichbane?
No, not Lichbane. That is the AP Sheen version. The other mana item that builds out of Lost Chapter, that shoots little sparks and shit. Why can't I think of the name of it? Ludens Echo.
I know. No, not Ludens Echo. It's the.
No, Ludens Echo. Absolutely, it is Ludanko. That's the item I'm thinking of, because that adds 90 ability power, 10% cooldown reduction. Of course, it adds 500 mana because you're building Lost Chapter, but that extra burst damage you're getting with the.
I thought you were talking about GLP. That's my bad.
No, instead of GLP, you're getting Hextech Proto Belt on Annie because you want that. Because I think you've previously mentioned, I don't remember if it was on or off show, but it's true that Annie is really gated by the flash cooldown. So everything you can do to mitigate that through, through anything that you're purchasing is better. But really with Annie, like having that little extra forward or jump forward through Proto Belt is super helpful for her. But you can always rush into Ludens Echo. I agree with you. And I think it actually leads into the point that I wanted to make, that if you're looking at champions like with Rod of Ages or Sterix or something like that, you're really trying to abuse their high base stats. And you're using their high base damage early, and that's why you can afford not to go the AP route, because you're still doing a lot of damage when you have that extra sustain. That if you but there's only a few champions out there that have that. Like Annie's a really good example. She could really build fucking anything and be useful just because.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I've been watching a little bit of Antibot stream, and he has been building like pen boots straight into Shurelia's a few times. I've seen him do that.
Sure.
So he's just using that to get in, which is kind of what Protobelt does. I think it's just a cheaper item.
I like that. I built Shurelia's earlier today, and I thought they felt really, really good to have. I had forgotten how good that item was. I'm just used to there being Righteous Glory, and then I'm like, oh, I'm AP. I can build Shurelia's. That gets my.
I think that's the build on Vlad now. Also, is Shurelia's, and then I think you might have called that when it first came out, but.
I think Dom was the one that told me, no, that won't happen, or I don't think that'll happen, but I'm probably gonna be wrong. I said, no, there's no way in hell that Shurelia's will not be a first purchase on Vlad.
Yeah, because Vlad it gives him all the stats he wants. It gives him move speed, and then he just wants to get to 40% CDR as quick as possible because he's all about cooldowns and sustain. So it's a really good item on him right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I want to talk. I see a lot of people build Rod of Ages. Another thing I wanted to point out is that itemization, like marksman itemization, I don't think people understand how to build marksman. It's either people rush into eye-edge really early, but like the normal Caitlyn build is a BF into some kind of wave clear item, like a hurricane or some kind of attack speed item. Even a BF Zeal finish the eye edge, but like building critical strike or building attack speed early is almost always a no unless your name is like Yasuo.
You mean like if you back and you get like the 800 crit item instead of just attack speed, something like that?
Yeah, like if you just build like a raw brawler's glove, that's almost always a no. There's a few champions out there that you can get away with it. Like I'll build a brawler's glove on Jhin over a dagger because I want the extra critical strike for more damage, but that's kind of a fringe case. But like people building a Zeal early, I see a lot of low elo players play Jinx and they rush right into like Hurricane and they have no extra damage on top of it. And granted, there's no crit on there, but there's a fuckload of attack speed, and you're not getting any extra damage by building that. You are essentially delaying a power spike.
Yeah, I think Jinx might not be terrible with Hurricane because doesn't that help stack her Q passive?
It does, but you're still like with Jinx, you could go BF Sword into Hurricane, or you could go Pickaxe into Hurricane instead.
The ideal build, I feel like, for most ADs in like a standard normal game is just you want to get 1300 gold because you want to get a BF Sword, and then you build a Zeal item, maybe with Berserkers, and then finish your eye edge or whatever it is you're building that into. Or some champions want Essence Reaver, but you almost always want to try and get BF Sword because the amount of damage your autos is going to do with the extra AD is so much more than getting maybe one extra auto attack during a fight.
And that's this is where I want to talk about itemization and trying to have a better understanding of why we're building things. If you back a few patches ago, or maybe even last season, a lot of pros were rushing Static Shiv on like Tristana, but they were doing it because Tristana had really good wave clear and that aided in it. And then they were allowed to roam and contest objectives with the lane priority that they were receiving through Tristana building a Static Shiv. And the same goes with Caitlyn going BF into Hurricane. There was a lot of lane priority there because she's able to push and shove and keep you into the turret. And nowadays there are so many more enchanters and whatnot in the bottom lane that just having that extra raw damage to be able to pop, let's say, Caitlyn headshots into somebody is more valuable than shoving the wave and trying, especially in solo queue. I'm sorry, I lost track. My point is solo queue. It's harder to have lane priority and abuse that as through with your jungler than it is in pro play. And if you are using pro play as your baseline of why you should be building items, you need to realize that we're actually at a point that pro play and solo queue are two totally different games.
Yeah, because the reason some builds in pro play work when they don't in solo queue is it's so much more of a controlled game where, say, someone's building scaling items on a champion that normally wouldn't build scaling items, is because they have the confidence and they're with the team that they believe that they can get to the power point, the break point of their items. Where in solo queue, you never know because it's a shit show all the time. So the pro builds don't, as you're saying, they don't really translate. In general, they can translate, but you have to really listen to if you're watching pro play, the casters will normally try and explain why they're building what items. And it normally has to do with something team oriented, or they're trying to control something or other. And it's not exactly why you would think you should build the item.
It's really, it is hard to understand why you're building items. Another point, I'll kind of scroll down here in the document, is planning your build before we go in the game. I know we've talked about this and Four Wards has talked about this, but it really is advantageous for you to look at the enemy team and have an idea what you want to build and why you're building it. Like even rushing in early tabbies is still a good idea. Rushing in early Mercury treads can be a really good idea. Just buying boots and rushing those into something can have such an impact. I see a lot of people make the mistake, of not building a Hexdrinker on a champion that could abuse that.
Yeah, so this happens in mid lane all the time, where regardless of matchup, if you're playing a caster or a mage, I'll use Orianna again, they always want to go get their the last chapter as quick as possible. But if you're against a Zed, you're going to be way better off rushing Seeker's Arm Guard. You don't really want to get Tabby early. I feel like Seeker's is better if you're against an AD assassin, or say you're Zed and you're against a bunch of AP and you want the Maw, because you just have to think about how if you get that item early enough, the opportunities that's going to have to save your life is so much more, and it can help you so much in lane just because it gives you the base MR, that it's a huge difference. Like if I'm playing against Fizz, I almost always rush Merc Treads just because they're cheap and being able to move faster is really nice, and the MR saves your life all the time.
Was it Faker that built an early Null Magic Mantle? You probably don't remember this. I want to say he was Cinder at Cassiopeia, and he built an early Null Magic Mantle into an Oriana, I believe. And I know this is very, I won't say fringe case, but very specific. But it's something like that where mid lane, we're building an early Null Magic Mantle as a mid laner that you'll eventually build into like the Abyssal Mask or whatever it may be. That you can use and abuse, because staying in lane and staying alive is always more important than getting pushed out of lane and not being able to, getting dove in a turret, dying, and giving lane priority.
Especially in pro play where it's all about just getting farm, and they just want to stay in. They don't need the extra damage to farm because they're so good at lasting and all that. They're just more worried about getting pushed out. So that's another reason where it might not translate perfectly. But is Null Magic Mantle the 450 or the 720 item?
450.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's never, if you're in a tough matchup, it's never bad to get some early defensive stats, especially if your character has high base damages or is someone who really spams their abilities. It can make a huge difference just being able to have that extra MR. Because, I mean, if you get all in by a fizz and you're taking a little, like you walk away with 50 HP, that's probably because you had a little MR. It makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. I can't scream enough. Sorry about that. I'm glad you kept talking. My headset made a beep at me, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I gotta plug it in.
Yeah, I saw. I was trying to save the ship all by myself.
You did fine. I think Hex Drinker is just an item that's overlooked in general for a lot of lanes. And I think there could be a case for it, even building it on an 80 carry early if you're playing in some really heavy magic damage and you're just eating shit down there. But for top lane specifically, Hex Drinker is such a good item. If you're playing into Teemo, Hex Drinker is really good because you pick up that No Magic Mantle early, you get some extra damage, and it saves you. You should have the No Magic Orb as your secondary tree if you're playing into an AP top lane. This is why paying attention in champion select and not having preset rune pages. I've been a big proponent for a very long time of always setting your rune page whenever you go into a game instead of having preset ones that you've made. Every single game I play, I make.
I do the same thing. I didn't buy any. I have just one rune page that I have to switch every time. Mm-hmm. So I almost never, because if you only have one, then you're always going to change it. So I don't have any pre-med at all.
Yep, mine still says new rune page 1 on it.
I think mine says, why do I play this champion? And that's, I don't know, just a little something I have there.
For the longest time, my base mastery page was called Interior Crocodile Alligator.
Oh, well, that's interesting. That's a nice one, I guess.
Yeah, it's because I think I made it a long time ago for Renekton when I was maining him, and I just never changed it. And I just kept, I'd had 20 mastery pages, and I would only ever change that one mastery page. And I just realized it forced me to think about what I was playing into and what masteries I needed. And now more than ever, we're always changing our masteries up. Every single game I'm always thinking, do I need this? Do I want that? What's my secondary? Do I want to pick Cryalysis?
Chrysalis.
Do I want to go and resolve? Do I want to pick that up? Do I want to pick up bone plating? Do I want overgrowth? Do I want second wind? I got to think about it. Well, how am I going to use these? Is it going to help me early? Is it going to help me late? Where am I trying to scale to? All these thoughts are running through my head when I play a champion, because I have to go, I am playing against X champion. My goal for this game is to do this. If I get ahead, I want to do this. I think that I will either go even or get ahead, so I'm going to pick up these items, or these masteries or runes. And so I'm always trying to think ahead and try to figure out what am I going to be doing in the game, or what is the best case scenario for me.
Yeah, if you're in a tough matchup, like bone plating Chrysalis and bone plating Revitalize are so helpful. They just make laning phase so much easier if you can take those two. So I agree. You have to be really conscientious of what you're going against, and it really does affect your rune choices.
Well said. So I think we did that. Oh, I did write down here. Trinity Force is expensive. Unless you are handedly winning, consider survival routes. And by survival routes is, I think there's a problem with a lot of players that they look at pro builds and they build exactly what pro builds has, which is fine. You can get a really good baseline of how to build the champion on there. But like a lot of times they'll have like the most winningest build maybe for Fiora is Trinity Force. Well, really that build isn't that good. It's just because the player knows how to play that champion so well that they can get away with it. And so they go in the lane, They build the first item of Trinity Force like a Sheen. They die, but they come back and now they have a couple of long swords or something. When in reality, you should be going to lane and either picking up a Sterix Gauge or you should be picking up a Phage into a Black Cleaver. I love items that give, like specifically top lane, that give you damage and survivability. I hate just pure straight damage because I feel like there's too big of room for error.
I feel like a lot of people want to get the Sheen first when that's really not the best item to get. I feel like almost always Phage is better as a first purchase into the I don't think you should abandon Trinity Force because so many champions are almost like balanced around Trinity Force where you want to get that item so quickly because it really amps up what you can do as a champion. But I think people really try and focus on, the Sheen, that gives you the Spellblade passive or whatever it's called. It's so powerful, but really having the extra HP, the extra AD, and the move speed on your auto attacks is so valuable that I think Phage is normally the right way to go.
Well, haven't you seen that Jax, for example, that he almost always wants Trinity Force, but there is an alternative build that I think actually performs better. That's like the split pushing Jax build, where you're getting a Tiamat and you're building like a tanky Jax, like Sterix Gauge, I think Tiamat, and I don't think you're even getting Trinity Force at any point until later, unless you start getting fed. Basically, you're Bruiser split push Jax, and you can't be dueled because you're so goddamn tanky.
I've never seen a Jax build that doesn't have Trinity Force, so that's an interesting idea. But I feel like Trinity Force is so key to Jax because it like gives him all of the stats that he wants. It's super helpful. So, I mean, that's an interesting thought. I don't know. I've never seen this person or really looked up their build, but that's an interesting take for sure.
Here's like one of the builds. It's Titanic Hydra, Sterix, and a Ginsu's Rageblade. And then you build, not necessarily this order, you also get a Guardian Angel, and then eventually a Trinity Force on top of it. But it's like that tanky split push build that you can do on Jax. I also think that Titanic Hydra and Blade of the Ruin King is another one, along with Sterix, that you can do. And, you don't get Trinity Force until you can really afford it.
I just don't see how you're getting, like, rushing Titanic or rushing Sterix over Trinity Force. Just doesn't sound good to me. But, I mean, I'm not a Jax main, so
it's because
that guy might know something I don't.
It's because you're picking up Tiamat early, and you're using Tiamat to force the wave out. And
well, I mean,
a lot of... Like, Jax can almost never be dueled.
A lot of top laners who struggle with their wave clear like to get an early Tiamat and then build into, because I know Aurelia can do that, Jax can do that, Tryndamere does that. Tryndamere doesn't build Trinity Force, but he'll go Tiamat, Berserkers, into Phantom Dancer a lot, just because the Tiamat helps him shove and then he can just abuse his opponent. So Tiamat early, if you're getting a Tiamat item, Tiamat early is really helpful because it lets you just wave clear a lot quicker because it gives you almost an auto attack reset and just really is incredibly helpful.
I'm trying to remember correctly when you're buying it. The core definitely is Titanic Hydra. It's like Titanic Hydra, Blade of the Ruin King, and you're picking up Trinity Force at some point, and Sterix is definitely in there. It's split push God, Jax build. Yeah,
but I feel like, because when I play Jax, I play more in the jungle if I'm playing him, but
sure.
I normally will I get Tiamat and Trinity Force are my first. I'll get Tiamat sometime in my Trinity Force build, but I'll finish Trinity Force first. I'll build my Sterix. I'll have boots at some point in there also, and then I'll finish my Titanic. So I get those three items, Trinity, Sterix, and Titanic, but I just feel like that order that he's getting in is a little wonky.
And I might have my order a little off here, to be honest with you. I'm going off of pure memory, but I swear it's first item Titanic, and it might be Titanic into Trinity, then into like not Titanic into Trinity. It might be Tiamat into Trinity into tank, but basically you become a split push God. You don't ever team fight. You just split push.
Well, I think doesn't Titanic give you the auto attack reset once you have it completed? Because I know Tiamat kind of does, but I think Titanic like actually resets the auto.
Yeah, well, Tiamat does too.
I think Tiamat does like the active, but Titanic like is a whole new auto attack because it empowers the next auto. I think that would be super nitpicky, but I think that's how it works.
I know. I just know that in somebody like Jax, you have to be pretty skilled to be able to do the auto W Trinity or auto W Tiamat auto. I know it doesn't sound very skilled, but like in the middle of a team fight, you need to be pretty skilled to be able to be moving and hitting that same combo all at the same time.
Yeah, because champions like Jax who don't have like move speed boosts or super big. Well, I guess he does have attack speed boost, but not having move speed is what makes it hard to orb walk as melee characters. So like Yi is super, you don't ever have to orb walk as Yi because your guy's going a million miles an hour. You just click on him and try and time your Q to dodge shit. But yeah,
That's my favorite.
auto attacking reset, very important.
Yeah, I want to talk about another piece here is that buying multiple defensive items on specific champions can actually be a waste of stats. The one that most I frequently see is Banshee's Veil and Zhonya's. I think
Banshee's.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's overkill.
You hinder yourself by buying 2 defensive items, or a lot of people will do. It used to be like Guardian's Angel, Randuin's Omen or something it was like Maw and Guardian Angel on an AD carry, and even that's overkill.
I would rarely ever get Banshees and Zhonya's. That's because I'm assuming you do get 20% CDR if you're buying one of the new core items. So and if you take Transcendence, that's already 40%, and you're just like wasting damage. You're not getting enough damage for the items that you're buying. So while you will be super safe, I think I talked to someone on Discord about this actually. Like you'll be alive, but you won't do a lot of damage. And you have to eventually make a risk with your build where your items are going to contribute more to a fight. Well, if you're in Zhonya's, sure, you're alive still, but maybe you needed a death cap instead or something like that. I think one is fine. I normally get Banshees if I'm picking between the two, depending on the matchup. But I think 2, that's overkill, in my own opinion. You gotta be a man and fight some people sometimes.
Being alive is no good if you're not pumping out damage. Like if you're just tickling a tank with a feather, it doesn't matter. Maybe you needed that Void Staff or that Rabadon's, which really is one of my other points. Is that like core just pure AP or pure raw AD is so overlooked. We're at the point in the game where everything's got some kind of passive to it, and it can be really tempting to pick up something that's like what is it, the Abyssal Mask or whatever it is. You're doing extra ticking damage by being in there, but sometimes just like raw AP, picking up a needlessly large rod can have such a larger impact than trying to pick up piece items.
Yeah, I agree. There's the counter arguments. You're going to do no damage if you're dead, which is why you want to get 2 of them.
Right.
But I think pure damage is also, you need to get damage at some point, and those items do give you some AP, but it's not the same as having pen or having needlessly large rod. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that was my other point down here. Don't fall in the trap of building items with complicated or involved passives. Like a Leandri's Void Staff Rabadon can be just as devastating as picking up a whole bunch of items with some really unique passives. Like I picked up Rylai's, but you just spent some ton of gold on a passive and 500 HP. Did you really need that? Would you have been better by just going into a Rabadon's Death Cap or picking up, a Hextech GLP to be able to get closer to somebody? You know what I'm saying? Like something different like that.
Yeah, Rylai's was supposed to be hot shit after the rework. Oh, I got 10 extra AP, but I don't remember the last time I've seen that item. Sad. I like it, but I just feel like there's better options.
There's not really anybody who's making use of it because you can just build. I keep saying it's Abyssal Mask, right? The one that you do 15% more magic damage.
Yeah, but that got nerfed, so that's not. The
Right.
radius on it got nerfed a lot, so it's more of just a tank item now.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of building items,
That item was awesome on Swain, just so you know. I was real sad when they nerfed it. He was unkillable. It was fantastic.
Cassiopeia used to rush that item. Like
Everyone used to rush it.
It's just so the extra 15% magic damage. Jeez.
Yeah, it was taking over Rod a ton of the time. Just gonna give you defense, but also give you pen. So it was like the best of both worlds, where you get HP defense and more damage instead of just HP and AP. So I think it needed to be nerfed. I'm kind of sad though. I really liked building it on Swain.
I feel that same way about lethality. Go ahead.
I'm gonna feel that way when they nerf Rageblade for Jhin somehow, because I like getting 1600 AD and critting all the time.
God, it feels
getting
good.
700 move speed. It's fantastic.
I don't know. I actually preferred 100% crit Jhin. Like 3 items was 80% crit Jhin back when it was iEdge, RFC, Static Shiv, but it's no longer advantageous to build both those, RFC and Static Shiv anymore because Shiv got nerfed. So, but
I still get
critting with everything.
Yeah, you still get crit because you don't build a pen item because you have so much AD. So you go like IE, Rapid Fire, Rage Blade and then a bunch of Zeal items, and that's how you get the crazy move speed when you crit. So you actually end up, if you're going that build, you end up overcapping on crits, but I think it's worth it just because of all the kiting potential it gives you.
Yeah, shit. The game's usually over by the time you pick up Rage Blade anyway. Like if you're to the point where you've finished Rage Blade, you're like the game is either likely even or going to be over because Jin just does so much extra damage, and you can stack it up while you wait for it to get into a team fight, which makes it more powerful. The last piece that I want to talk about here is that Grievous Wounds does exist, and it's super super helpful for marksmen to have that. Sure, we have Thornmail, but like there's a lot of times going into mid and late game or even early mid game where spending that 800 gold in Executioner's Calling can make or break games. And I bet a lot of you out there see Sona and what's her name, Soraka in your games because they're such easy supports to play that nerfing their healing help Maokai, right? I see a lot of him, and if you can just nerf the healing they do, you can cut down the tree.
Yeah, I mean, I was playing a game with Dom once, and I happened to have 800 gold. We were against the Soraka, my first back. I was like, well, I'll just get Grievous Wounds. I got my Mortal Reminder or whatever it's called, and it's incredibly helpful. I think it's fine getting a first item if you're into someone like Soraka or someone like maybe Nami, because it provides so much. Because you're gonna be, it's almost like dealing more damage because they're not healing as much, so it's effectively dealing more damage.
Right.
I think it's a great early purchase. And it's, if you're not getting it by like you're in between your second and third item when you're against champions like that, you're doing something wrong. You need to purchase it. It's a incredibly helpful item against healing.
I don't know what it is. It just doesn't feel good to have the item, and I think that's why a lot of people like it doesn't. You don't see what is happening even throughout the team fight. You don't realize that you are reducing the amount of healing that's coming in, but go back and watch your replays. I think you would notice the difference if you looked at a replay with you had it and didn't have it.
Yeah, it's like a passive thing where, I mean, like Tiamat, you're not building it. You're not going to finish the Tiamat item, but at least you get to do the cool auto attack reset-ish thing. And then that item just like, that's a little AD and then just sits there. And you're like, well, I'd rather just finish my other items first because then we'll get like the rapid fire cannon auto or increased crit damage, which does make it have a bigger number when you auto them. So it is something about not being able to tell what the item's doing, but I still think you need to get it early.
Mm. So according to my gaming software, I have 18 minutes remaining with my headset, which went down from 22. So I think we have time for a couple listener questions. The problem is I can't plug my headset in and talk to you at the same time because it like cuts out. There was a bit of there you were talking about something and it cut out in the middle of it and I couldn't hear a damn thing you said. And I'm like, I really hope that I could just pick this up to where he ends it.
Well, I'm sure I was saying something really intelligent. So
you were saying something about like, oh, I don't remember what it was. It doesn't matter. Fuck it. Let's answer a couple listener questions, and if this gets down to a point where I think I'm gonna die, I'm just gonna have to cancel it and cut it early because my headset. This is charge your headset before your podcast, people. Learn a valuable lesson from me. Don't go all day gaming and then not plug this cord in. So, I almost read that as total farts. I can't. Oh, excuse me. All right.
Adam's dying.
I'm okay.
Send help.
Total Fats writes in do. It says do.
Oh, you're right. See, this is already, we're missing Dom already. No one's correcting all of the freaking emails. It's tragic for us.
Due to the changes of Heal and Ignite, would it make more sense for the support to run Heal? With a lot of supports already taking Unsealed Spellbook and Cosmic Insight, they would have Heal. They would have a heal cooldown on almost the same base timer as Ignite.
So I don't know if you mean instead of like the ADC running heal, or if you're both having heal. You definitely both should not have heal, but I don't think you should take heal as a support. Take Ignite or take Exhaust. It's just going to provide more to the team.
We're past the point that the support should even be considering taking heal. That was a thing for a little while back when. What the fuck? What is the name of the item? The item that gave attack speed.
Ardent Sensor.
Thank you. Back in the Ardent Sensor meta was big because you could, you had it up more often. You were healing. Back when healed and shield power was super super powerful. That was a thing. And then the ADC either took barrier or exhaust on their own. But we're at a point that you need exhaust in the game, and the support really needs to be worried about that because the support's likely in the thick of things more so than the marksman is, and the marksman needs to be able to save themselves. And between lag and this what's going on in a team fight, like it's really hard to pay attention if your marksman needs an additional heal and movement speed. So letting them take care of themselves and you exhausting the enemy is more advantageous for you and your partner than you attempting to try to save them through the healing. Plus, when it comes to a team fight, you can't expect the marksman to be in range to be at exhaust, because in bottom lane, the likelihood of you as the support being closer to the enemy is higher unless the marksman is getting caught out.
I think a more interesting question might be if the ADC should take barrier instead of heal.
I've thought about it, but I still think that I think it depends on what you're going into. If you feel like there's going to be a lot of fights bottom lane or more fights because there's like an Evelyn and there's an aggressive bot lane, perhaps barrier is better for you, because barrier's off a cooldown. It's got a significantly shorter cooldown than heal does, allowing you to potentially survive. But you also have to use it properly. Like, temporary health is not as good as permanent health, and that's what makes heal so much better right now.
Yeah, and the move speed. I don't know if I still think heal is probably better overall, but I think there are probably some particular cases where barrier might be better. Like if they're really bursty and you know that your heal is not gonna they're gonna use the whole barrier shield up in the time that you cast it, then I think that barrier can be better. I think it's situational though. Or maybe even heal. I've taken cleanse instead of heal when they had like a Morg Ashe and maybe an Evelyn.
Sure.
Just where I know that if I get hit by one thing of CC late game, I'm gonna die. So I've gone cleanse instead of heal just because I feel like I'm gonna need the extra escape. And I have this like qualm with what's it called, cleanse, where I feel like it almost just makes your flash better, because I feel like you almost always have to use both of them to get out of a situation. So it's like if you're taking cleanse, you basically just have flash with a get out of jail card to get out of CC. That's just my personal way of thinking about it. But I still think cleanse is an undervalued summoner spell, and not enough people take it.
I like it. My problem being that you need to be better than your opponent when it comes to cleanse, because you need to be able to instantly cleanse something. If you don't have fast fingers, cleanse is not going to work that well for you. Like, I know pros have it easier when it comes, because they're playing on 1 to 2 ping, because they're playing right there. The server is in the same room essentially, so they can instantly cleanse something when they get hit. But when you're playing over 90, 70 to 90 ping, it's really hard to instantly cleanse, and you're likely getting hit with spells in between if you're not used to having it, right? I think you need to take cleanse more than once and get hit with a bunch of spells and understand how to use it. Heal is just it just makes sense. It makes more sense to use heal. You know what I'm saying? Like, to a lot of players, it's easy.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's definitely a learning curve to take cleanse, and nothing's worse than cleansing early. That is the worst feeling ever.
God, I do it all
but
the
I mean,
time.
you can save yourself by like cleansing the last tick of ignite. I've done that. I've done that a lot actually, where you're walking away and you're kind of waiting to see if you're gonna die to the ignite, and then you cleanse and you have 2 HP. That's a pretty rewarding way of using it. It's not the flashiest way of doing it, but you can cleanse stuff like that, so it's super helpful. But it's also like, people take cleanse against Lissandra, but that's really hard, because as you're saying, if your ping isn't super low, you're gonna cleanse her ult and then immediately get rooted by her W, so it's not actually that helpful. But I think of when they have like long range poke abilities that are gonna root you, like maybe Lux's binding, Morgana's binding, or Ashe's R, I think it can be super useful.
All right, let's go on and move to the next question. BCat writes in, what is the best way to deal with problem teammates? If there's one problem player, should you advise the tilting teammates just mute the problem player, or should you just let the situation unfold? I want to emphasize this is not an issue of me tilting. I'm just trying to keep my teammates from tilting. If you go out there, I'm going to start by saying this. If you go out there and you Google Trinity Force Podcast, Mind Games Weldon, Weldon Green, Chris Alphanar, or Mentality, any of those keywords, you'll find a ton of videos about this subject. I linked this to somebody today. I think I linked him 6 different videos about mentality and how to play with other teammates. But to answer your specific question, BCat, if I am playing the game, before I mute everybody, I generally type and say, hey, mute, let's mute each other. Let's just play. We're good to go. And I just quickly I try to say a couple things, and I know that I can't necessarily diffuse the situation, but sometimes by saying, we're okay, let's go do this, and taking control of the team and saying, now we are going to focus on this objective, could be the guidance the person needs to stop focusing on tilting and focusing on winning the game. If you can provide guidance through saying, hey, let's go take Rift Herald and ping it and see where that gets you. Otherwise, you just mute everybody and keep playing the game. Like you spending the time to type out a long sentence about why they shouldn't fight and stuff is wasting your time. And instead, you should be trying to just guide your team to victory and making them focus on something else than what's tilting them.
Yeah, I agree. It's impossible to completely diffuse a situation. I mean, you don't actually know these people. You're playing a video game with them. You don't want to put too much effort into being like, come on, guys, let's just all be one big happy family for this next 20 minutes. We're going to be in this game together. It's almost always just to mute and advise your teammates to mute also and just be like, hey, we'll just ping. We'll work it out that way. I think that's the best course of action.
You just have to be super positive. I have seen, and you can't fix everybody. Even saying this, a lot of times they'll still fight or just troll because people get pissy because, you know, they have egos and their egos are easily bruised through an online video game.
I mean, some people's like really get a lot of self-worth out of how much LP they have. So it like can actually be like upset them when they know that they're gonna, oh, if I lose this, I'm gonna have to win this many more games. Like they do this whole mental battle with themselves. So I feel like, I mean, just it's their problem, not yours. So mute them and finish the game.
Naked Mole Rat writes in, how can I go in and enjoy ranked if I'm worried about getting feeders, smurfs, or one tricks to ruin my experience? Hey, I'm going to tell you something that a mentor, my mother, I don't know, lots of people have told me, you can't control everybody else. You can only control yourself. So make the best out of the time that you have. If you're going to go in and worry about something that's outside of your control, you are setting yourself up for failure. If you walk out, I had to tell my wife this once because she didn't want the kids to go to school. You know, you saw what's going on in the United States and the whole gun thing and, you know, Sandy Hook, et cetera. I don't want to get into big politics, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And, I had to explain to her, if you live your life in fear, you're never going to, be able to enjoy life because the likelihood of that happening while it exists is so low that we can't try to shield our children or shield everybody from everything that is happening in the world. Instead, we just need to go out there and live our lives and, do what we can to either prevent it in the future or, you get what I'm saying here. I know these are kind of, they're connected, but yet not connected. Basically, don't worry about other people. Just worry about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, a more recent kind of thing is with the Southwest flight where the person got like sucked out of the window. Like that's such a freak accident, but you can't go onto every plane like, oh my gosh, that could happen to my flight. Well, like, yes, there's a minuscule chance, like absolutely tiny chance that could happen on your flight. It's not something you should actually worry about going onto plane because it's like not realistic that's going to happen to you. Well, so, I mean, if you're really that worried about it, just play norms. If it's going to affect your game, you don't have to play ranked. That's not like a requirement. That's why they have norms. Just play norms and then enjoy yourself that way.
Right. And go back to what Josh just said a few minutes ago. Don't base your self-worth or your game self-worth on your LP or your current rank. I'll say it straight out there. I'm sitting at gold 1 right now after doing my placements. I've played a total of, I think, 12 solo queue games this season, and we're moving into... What are we moving into? Fucking May? Is that right?
Yeah, almost May. End of the semester's coming up.
Yeah, right. We're not halfway through the season yet, but we're a good chunk into it, and I haven't really played the game, and it's easy for me to go. I see people out there. What are these scrubs? What are the elo of these scrubs? And I kind of shrug my shoulders. If you're going to listen to my show based on the elo that I am currently, and not my previous accolades, then you know what, more power to you, buddy. Go find somebody else. But I don't base my worth based on somebody out there saying, oh, this dude's only sitting on gold 1 right now. I know what I'm capable of, but I also know what's going on in my life. So the same thing should be going for you. Anybody out there, Naked Bull Rat, anybody else there. If you can't play ranked, don't worry about it. Just play the game to have fun. That's what they all come down to. Because no one's gonna in 2 years when you're done playing this game or whatever it is, no one's gonna give a fuck that you ever made diamond, right? Like, no one cares. I don't give a fuck. I made diamond 2 seasons ago, but no one cares anymore that I made it. They just listen and use my advice to try to climb themselves. So, I'm sorry, Vrail. I'm sorry if I've been monopolizing. It's just I've had too many conversations with people that they base. I'm just gonna repeat myself. They base too much self-worth on what their elo is. I
mean, it's like some people like, especially. Not I'm Diamond 5 right now, and a lot of people in Diamond 5 think they're hot shit
Oh,
just
yeah.
because they're Diamond 5. And I'm like, I'm terrible. I play against somebody who's like Diamond 3 and I get shit on, and I'm like, well, and sometimes I play against people who are Diamond 3 and I shit on them. It's like it's not actually that big of a deal what your rank is. As long as you're having fun, then that's all that really matters. To get super deep and emotional about it.
Dude, I have 156 hours into PUBG. I've won one chicken dinner, and I still go in every day and have fun.
I
And
don't even
play
know
the
what a
fuck
chicken
out of it.
dinner is. I played like 3 games of PUBG with
It's when you win.
Beaver.
It's just
That's when you win?
Yeah.
Okay. I've never won. We've come close, but
I think last week I played with Wrecker. For those of you listening a long time, know who Wrecker is. I think we got 3 second place finishes in a row, and I still go out with a smile because I don't give a fuck. Who cares? Who's looking at what my PUBG win loss ratio is? I just go out there to have fun. So anyway, that's it's all anecdotal, but just have fun. Go out there and play the game, have fun.
that's the whole point of video games.
Right, like I sit down and I fucking play Arabs because I have fun doing it. Or I think so. Spoiler alert: we're gonna put a new series out there soon. We did a test run of it like a year ago. It was called Adam and Mary Play Games, and it was almost a year and a half ago. We were playing Mario Kart, and I'm like screaming and like throwing my thing, and I think it ends with us getting really pissed off and basically shutting the laptop down. So we went and bought a game called I think it's from 2015. Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. I'm sure everybody out there knows about it, but basically, you have to defuse a bomb, and one person has to read the manual but can't see the screen and has to tell the other person how to defuse the bomb. And we want to get drunk and record ourselves and post that out there. So, spoiler, that's coming onto YouTube, and I'm sure there's going to be shit thrown. But that's what it is. It's fun. Video games are fun. And also, divorces are not fun. Just putting that out there. Astro writes in, I've been playing boring tanks and bruisers top lane. My mouse is not moving. After Kaisa came out, I've been slowly moving to playing her a lot. I like her top, but I perform pretty well as a marksman, especially when I duo with my support main friend. However, she's the only ADC I enjoy playing, and if she gets banned or picked, I won't feel good on the role. Should I keep practicing her for marksman in a role which is mostly alien to me, or should I stick with what I know?
I mean, I'm in the same boat when I play. Like, I was playing ADC the other day, and if I don't get Jhin, I kind of suck really bad. And they banned Jhin, I played Caitlyn, and I fed my ass off. So, I mean, it's tricky. You probably want to have, if you're going to switch to ADC, you should probably at least have someone who can be your backup. If that Kaisa gets banned, you'll at least be serviceable on that champion. Like Caitlyn, even though I just said I fed on her, is pretty good because she has the long range and is pretty good in the meta at the moment. But if you're gonna make a conscious effort to switch to ADC, you should have some champions that you can play in case, especially because she's such a high pick ban priority at the moment. You need to have someone who can be your backup if you're gonna transition to bot lane.
Boom, done. Put a stamp on it. What is it? Castaneto writes, in games where your team is behind in gold, kills, and map pressure, how do you move around the map to equalize the map pressure and eventually even out the game? Is it better to move as a 5-man unit or split up into groups of 2 or 3?
If you're behind in gold, kills, and map pressure, you probably are not going to have the control over the game to do those kind of things. You just have to be kind of reactionary. I think it... Go ahead.
I was going to say, you have to wait till the enemy team makes a mistake. If you're behind gold, kills, and number of towers, the only way you come back from that game is being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, it's down to your enemy making it. That's what I was getting to. But eventually, I mean, it's not bad to give up outer turrets because once you just are down to your 3, you don't want to just give them up for free if you have a avenue to defend them. But it's not if you're behind in all of those things. I'm assuming you're behind rather like by a healthy margin in those 3 particular things. It's almost easier not to have any outer turrets because the distance you have to travel to cover your 3 inhibitor turrets is really small. It can't, if they don't have Baron, it can be easier to defend that way unless they're really outmaneuvering you on the map, which shouldn't happen. Like, I mean, it can happen, but it's not as likely in solo queue fiestas.
Right. In solo queue, I don't always mind if my inhibitor gets, like, if we are behind and we are obviously losing, I don't always mind if my inhibitor gets taken. Like, I don't think it's the end of the world. or even if I'm pushed into just the base, because instead of thinking about doom and gloom, as long as we have some way to move around and protect Baron or even contest Baron, allowing those Superman, if we get, there's two factors here. If we can clear super minions and we can have some way to protect Baron or at least be reactionary to Baron, but when super minions are coming in, I'm getting more gold. Or even when my 3-up, I'm getting a lot more gold because there are a lot more minions. The minions are coming into my base slowly. If they can't crack the base and I've continually clear waves, I'm getting more and more gold and experience, and I'm catching up for free. Like, the way to push an advantage is to be that level or two ahead, or be that couple thousand gold ahead, and continue to use that advantage by taking turrets as fast as you possibly can. If you take all the outer turrets, but you're not able to siege down the inner turrets, you are essentially wasting your lead because you're giving the enemy free money.
I agree with you as long as it's not the bot lane inhibitor. I feel like the bot lane inhibitor is so hard to defend against Baron.
Yes, absolutely.
But if it's mid or top, I think it's not the end of the world. But if you lose bot, it makes it really hard to cover the whole map.
Right. So just keep that in mind, that when you are stuck in the base, and if you're stuck there for more than hell, if you're stuck there and they're not taking those inner turrets for 3-4 minutes, it's very advantageous for you for that to be happening, because you are being fed free minions and potentially picks and kills. And as long as they're not taking objectives like Baron, and hopefully the dragon spawns are good for you, like the infernals aren't continually popping up, you are actually catching up on levels and experience, allowing you to make those team comebacks. That's why you see those comebacks happen, because they keep getting fed minions and they can't take things down, and suddenly that item spike the enemy had has now been equalized just based on the fact that they couldn't crack it open. So mentality, man. I need to bring Alphanar or Weldon on this podcast again. We need to do another episode on mentality.
It's incredibly important. Incredibly important.
I'm going to leave these last questions here. I've got Alan, All Vision, James, Cookie, Saltbrush, Alan again. Looks like Dogius writes in. I'm going to leave those ones because we'll probably discuss those next week, because we're going to need some discussion topics come Monday. But guys, please continue to write in feedback at trinityforcepodcast.com. Send us all the questions that you possibly have. Please check out our YouTube, youtube.com/tforcepodcast. I'm going to be... So, as of this last weekend, I purchased a new motherboard, and I purchased a delitting kit. I have a Intel 4790K. I'm going to be delitting my 4790K and then overclocking it on a ROG Hero. And if you would like to see that, I'm going to be streaming that in the next couple of weeks. I'll post more about it, tell you guys. I'm going to be doing it with my buddy Dave, New Soundwave. He was here with his kid a few weeks ago. And we're going to be streaming that. I'll probably put it up on YouTube too, but so cross your fingers that works out really well for me. I'm just trying to give you guys more content outside of League of Legends that we can all have fun with, because we're all like, ROG stands for Republic of Gamers. That's really what we are. We're all just a bunch of gamers having fun. So if you want to come troll the shit out of me in Twitch, I'll post that schedule up on our website and whatnot.
Good shit. I'll tune in and troll you with my lack of computer knowledge.
It'll be awesome.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have multiple camera angles set up, because I want one set up when we do the delitting of it, and I want one set up on our faces and shit. I mean, we've been joking about wearing scrubs and having someone dot that stupid shit. Right? I wish it would happen. It won't. We'll just get drunk and stream. So
hey, that's not so bad.
Nothing wrong with that, guys. That's it. Patreon.com/tforce network. Go check us out. And that's pretty much it. Vrail, thanks for doing the podcast. The 2-man show worked out tonight.
Yeah, I think we made it last. It was good shit. Some good topics in here.
You're welcome. All right, guys. That is the Trinity Force podcast. We will see you all on Monday, because Wednesday is going to be a special episode. So, guys, we will see you live and on Monday. Peace.
Later.